Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to talk about something that seems paradoxical at first, being real without ever trying to prove it. In a world obsessed with validation, appearances, and social recognition, the quiet strength of authenticity is often overshadowed by the loudness of performance. But true character, like deep waters, does not need to make noise. Authenticity is a state of being, not an act. It is not something we put on like a costume or a role we play to fit into society. It is not about appearing genuine, nor is it about proving to others that we are real. Authenticity is a quiet force that emerges naturally when we align ourselves with our true nature, unshaped by external demands or expectations. It is the art of being, without effort, without performance, without the burden of validation. The moment we try to prove our authenticity, we have already lost it, for authenticity is not about perception, it is about essence. It is not something to be demonstrated, but something to be lived. In a world that often values appearances over substance, there is a temptation to craft an identity that is socially acceptable, impressive, or admirable. People carefully curate their words, actions, and even emotions to fit a mold that will earn approval or praise. They present themselves in a way that will be liked, respected, or even envied. But this careful construction, no matter how skillfully executed, is not authenticity, it is performance. A person who is truly authentic does not need to construct a version of themselves for the world. They exist as they are, without the need for external validation. They are not concerned with being perceived as authentic because they do not see authenticity as something separate from who they naturally are. The difference between being authentic and acting authentic is subtle yet profound. Acting authentic requires conscious effort. It involves proving, explaining, justifying. A person who acts authentic might say things like, "I'm just being real," or "I always speak my mind," or "I don't care what others think." Yet, the very need to declare this suggests an underlying insecurity. If one truly does not care what others think, they have no need to announce it. If one is truly honest, their actions will reflect it without the need for justification. When someone is real, their words and actions naturally align, and there is no need for performance, because truth speaks for itself. Authenticity is effortless because it arises from within. It does not require validation, recognition, or confirmation from others. A tree does not try to be a tree, it simply grows, stretches toward the light, and fulfills its nature. The same principle applies to people. When we are truly authentic, we do not seek to convince others of who we are. We simply live in alignment with our values, our principles, and our nature. We do not fear contradiction, because we are not trying to maintain an image. We are not concerned with whether others believe in our authenticity, because their belief is irrelevant. What matters is that we are true to ourselves, regardless of who is watching. When we try to prove that we are real, we have already stepped away from authenticity. The act of proving suggests that we are seeking approval, validation, or recognition from others. This need for validation introduces a performance element into our behavior. Even if we believe we are being authentic, the moment we seek confirmation from the outside world, we have diluted our authenticity. The real test of authenticity is whether we remain the same when no one is watching. A person who is truly authentic does not change their behavior based on the audience in front of them. They do not act differently to impress, to conform, or to gain admiration. They remain true to their principles, whether they are alone or surrounded by people. Society often pressures individuals to conform, to present themselves in a way that is acceptable, polished, and admirable. Many people fear judgment, rejection, or misunderstanding, so they adjust themselves to fit the expectations of others. They say what they think others want to hear, they act in ways that will make them more likable, and they suppress aspects of themselves that may not be widely accepted. Over time, this habit of adjustment becomes second nature, and they may even lose sight of their true selves beneath layers of social conditioning. The desire to be seen as authentic often leads people to create an exaggerated version of authenticity, one that is loud, defiant, and performative. But true authenticity is not about rebellion or nonconformity for its own sake. It is about living in alignment with one's true nature, without the need to prove, justify, or seek approval. People often confuse authenticity with bluntness, as if being real means saying whatever comes to mind without regard to its own. But authenticity is not recklessness, It does not mean being harsh, rude, or confrontational under the excuse of just being honest. Authenticity is about integrity, self-awareness, and the quiet confidence of knowing who you are. It does not seek to shock, impress, or dominate. It is not concerned with appearing a certain way, but with simply being. The paradox of authenticity is that the more we try to prove it, the less real we become. The louder we declare, "This is who I am," the more we reveal our uncertainty. The most genuine people do not need to prove their realness. They do not seek admiration for their honesty, nor do they demand recognition for their integrity. They simply live according to their values, unaffected by whether others notice or approve. The world is filled with distractions, pressures, and expectations that pull us away from ourselves. Advertisements, social media, and cultural norms constantly tell us who we should be, what we should want, and how we should present ourselves. It is easy to become lost in this noise, to seek validation through likes, approval, or admiration. But authenticity is found in the quiet spaces, in the moments when we are alone with ourselves, when no one is watching, and when there is no need to impress. It is in these moments that we see who we truly are. The pursuit of authenticity is not about creating an identity, but about stripping away everything that is not real. It is about unlearning the need for approval, letting go of the fear of judgment, and embracing the simplicity of being. It is not an act, a role, or a performance. It is the quiet confidence of knowing that you do not need to prove anything to anyone. It is the understanding that truth does not need witnesses to be real. Seeking validation weakens true self-worth because it places our sense of value in the hands of others rather than within ourselves. When we seek approval, praise, or recognition from others, we unconsciously give them control over our self-esteem. Instead of finding confidence in who we are, we begin to measure our worth based on how others see us. This creates a dangerous dependency where our happiness, security, and self-perception fluctuate based on external validation rather than being rooted in an unshakable inner foundation. True self-worth does not need permission to exist. It does not require applause, recognition, or admiration. It simply is. But when we chase validation, we unknowingly weaken this inner strength by making it conditional on something outside of us. One of the most common ways people seek validation is through social acceptance. The desire to belong is natural, but when fitting in becomes the primary source of self-worth, we start to compromise who we are. We adjust our opinions, behaviors, and even our personality to align with what is expected, admired, or approved by others. Over time, this can lead to a loss of authenticity, where we no longer know if we are acting from our true self or simply mirroring what others want to see. This creates a cycle where our sense of worth becomes tied to how well we meet external expectations, leaving us constantly adjusting ourselves to maintain approval. But the problem with external validation is that it is unstable. People's opinions change, trends shift, and admiration fades. If our worth is based on something so fleeting, our self-esteem will always be at risk. Another way validation weakens self-worth is by creating a dependency on recognition. When we seek validation, we begin to associate our value with how much attention or praise we receive. This is especially evident in social media, where people measure their worth in likes, comments, and followers. The dopamine rush that comes from online validation can feel like confidence, but it is fragile. If validation decreases or disappears, self-worth takes a hit, leading to feelings of insecurity, self-doubt, and even anxiety. This dependency conditions the mind to seek constant reassurance, making it difficult to feel valuable without external affirmation. But true confidence is not built on what others think. It is built on an internal sense of self-respect, integrity, and self-acceptance. When we let go of the need for validation, we gain the freedom to be ourselves without fear of approval or rejection. Seeking validation also weakens self-worth by making it conditional. When we rely on external affirmation, we subconsciously believe that we are only worthy if others acknowledge it. This creates a mindset where self-worth must be earned rather than something that exists naturally. People who fall into this pattern often push themselves to exhaustion, constantly striving for achievements, status, or perfection to feel worthy. While accomplishment can be fulfilling, when it becomes a means to gain validation, it no longer serves personal growth, it becomes a tool to feed self-esteem. This can lead to burnout, stress, and anxiety as self-worth becomes dependent on continuous success. But true self-worth does not fluctuate with accomplishments or recognition. It remains steady even in moments of failure, rejection, or setbacks. Another danger of seeking validation is that it makes us vulnerable to manipulation. When we crave approval, we become easier to control. People who recognize this dependency can use validation as a tool to influence or exploit us. They may withhold praise to create insecurity or offer it selectively to maintain power over us. This is common in relationships, workplaces, and social dynamics where control is exerted through approval and rejection. When we base our worth on validation, we give others the ability to dictate how we feel about ourselves. But when we cultivate self-worth from within, we become immune to this kind of influence. We no longer need permission to feel valuable, nor are we shaken by criticism or rejection. This inner strength allows us to set boundaries, stand by our values, and remain independent in our sense of self. Seeking validation also limits personal growth because it encourages playing it safe. When we prioritize approval, we become hesitant to take risks, challenge norms, or express unpopular opinions. Fear of rejection or criticism can prevent us from stepping outside our comfort zone, exploring new ideas, or pursuing paths that may not be widely accepted. This limits creativity, authenticity, and self-discovery. True growth often requires embracing uncertainty, making mistakes, and standing alone in our convictions. When we are no longer driven by the need for validation, we gain the courage to follow our own path, even if it is met with resistance. We become more willing to embrace challenges, knowing that failure does not define our worth. Another consequence of seeking validation is that it creates a false self. When we prioritize external approval, we shape our identity based on what we think will be accepted rather than who we truly are. This can lead to a disconnect between our inner self and the persona we present to the world. Living this way can feel exhausting, as it requires constant effort to maintain an image that is not truly ours. Over time, this can lead to feelings of emptiness, dissatisfaction, or even identity crisis. When we let go of validation, we allow ourselves to exist authentically. We no longer feel the need to wear a mask, pretend, or prove anything. We find fulfillment in simply being ourselves without the pressure to meet external expectations. Letting go of the need for validation does not mean ignoring feedback or living in isolation. It means recognizing that our worth is not determined by others. It means developing an internal foundation of self-respect, self-awareness, and self-acceptance. This foundation allows us to navigate life with confidence, regardless of whether we receive praise or criticism. It frees us from the emotional highs and lows of external approval, giving us stability in our self-perception. Building true self-worth requires shifting focus from seeking validation to cultivating self-acceptance. It involves recognizing our intrinsic value, independent of achievements, recognition, or social acceptance. It requires practicing self-compassion, acknowledging our strengths and weaknesses without judgment. It means setting personal standards rather than relying on external approval. The more we reinforce this inner sense of worth, the less dependent we become on validation. Ultimately, seeking validation weakens self-worth because it makes it conditional, fragile, and dependent on external factors beyond our control. True self-worth is not given by others, it is cultivated from within. It is steady, unshaken by praise or criticism, and rooted in self-respect. It allows us to live authentically, embrace challenges, and remain true to ourselves without fear of approval or rejection. When we stop seeking validation, we gain something far more powerful: the freedom to be who we truly are, without compromise. Silence is often the most powerful proof because it transcends words and operates on a deeper, more profound level. In a world where people feel the need to explain, justify, and prove themselves constantly, silence stands as an unshakable force. It is often the most eloquent response, the most undeniable evidence, and the most impactful demonstration of truth. When someone is accused unfairly, those who protest loudly often appear defensive, while those who remain silent convey an unshaken confidence in their innocence. Silence is not weakness, it is the absence of unnecessary justification. It shows an understanding that truth does not require validation from others, it exists whether people recognize it or not. There is immense power in restraint. When we remain silent instead of engaging in arguments, we demonstrate control over our emotions and a mastery of our thoughts. Those who feel the need to constantly defend themselves or argue every point reveal a certain insecurity. They seek to prove their truth rather than allowing it to stand on its own. But silence carries a different energy. It signals that we do not feel the need to explain ourselves to those who do not wish to understand. It acknowledges that some battles are not worth fighting, that truth will reveal itself with time, and that those who are wise enough will see it without excessive explanation. In moments of conflict, silence can be the most commanding presence in the room. Words are often used to fill spaces of uncertainty, to establish dominance, or to control narratives. But silence resists all of that. It is a refusal to engage in meaningless debates or to seek validation through argument. It is an assertion of confidence, a declaration that one does not need to be loud to be heard. When someone refuses to react with words, their silence forces others to reflect, to question, and to confront the weight of what is left unsaid. It is in silence that people often realize the gravity of a situation, the depth of a truth, or the futility of an argument. Silence is also a powerful proof in personal relationships. When trust is questioned, when accusations arise, or when misunderstandings occur, people often feel the need to over-explain themselves. They repeat their justifications, seeking to convince the other person of their truth. But sometimes the strongest proof of one's integrity is simply living in a way that makes words unnecessary. A person who is honest does not need to constantly proclaim their honesty. Their actions will show it. A person who is loyal does not need to repeatedly declare their loyalty. Their consistency will reveal it. Silence allows character to speak louder than words ever could. It removes the performative aspect of proving oneself and replaces it with the quiet confidence of simply being. In a society that values constant communication, silence is often misunderstood. Many people equate silence with weakness, avoidance, or guilt. They assume that if someone does not respond, it is because they have no defense. But in reality, silence is often the highest form of strength. It takes discipline to resist the urge to explain, defend, or retaliate. It requires a deep understanding that truth does not need to be shouted to be real. Those who rely on noise to establish credibility often fail to recognize that the strongest proof is not found in arguments, but in the quiet certainty of knowing that truth stands on its own. Silence also serves as a test of others. When we refuse to engage in unnecessary explanations, we see who truly understands us and who does not. Those who trust us do not need excessive words to believe in our character. They do not require long justifications or constant reassurance. They recognize truth in actions, in presence, and in consistency. But those who doubt, those who demand constant explanations, often reveal their own insecurities. They seek words because they do not trust what is unsaid. They need proof not because they are searching for truth, but because they are uncertain within themselves. There is also a certain dignity in silence. It is a refusal to beg for understanding or to seek approval from those who are unwilling to see the truth. When we remain silent in the face of false accusations, gossip, or misunderstanding, we maintain our dignity. We do not lower ourselves to the level of those who seek to provoke us. Instead, we allow time to be the ultimate judge. Truth does not always need immediate defense. It reveals itself over time. And those who have the patience to remain silent often find that what they could not prove with words eventually becomes evident through actions and consequences. Silence is also the greatest response to provocation. When others seek to draw us into conflict, when they attempt to manipulate us into reacting, silence denies them the power they seek. It is a refusal to be controlled by external forces. Those who are quick to react with anger or frustration often give their power away. They allow others to dictate their emotions and responses. But silence is an act of control. It is a decision to remain unaffected, to rise above, and to let go of the need for validation through verbal retaliation. In moments of wisdom, silence can be the greatest teacher. When we are quiet, we observe more. We listen, we analyze, we reflect. Words can distract, but silence brings clarity. It allows us to understand situations more deeply, to see beyond what is being said, and to recognize what is truly important. Those who speak constantly often miss the subtle truths that can only be heard in silence. Wisdom is not in the volume of words spoken, but in the ability to remain silent until speech is necessary. Silence is also a form of self-respect. It shows that we value our words enough not to waste them. When we speak only when necessary, our words carry more weight. People listen more closely because they know that when we choose to speak, it matters. But those who speak constantly, who argue endlessly, who feel the need to prove themselves at every turn, often dilute the power of their own voice. Silence preserves that power. It ensures that when we do choose to speak, our words are heard, respected, and taken seriously. Ultimately, silence is proof not only of truth but of strength, confidence, and wisdom. It is the quiet force that stands unshaken in the face of doubt, conflict, and misunderstanding. It does not seek validation, it does not need to be explained, and it does not waver under pressure. Those who understand the power of silence recognize that sometimes the most powerful statement is the one that is never spoken. Confidence and integrity do not require announcement because they exist independently of external validation. True confidence is not about seeking attention or proclaiming one's abilities, and integrity is not about publicly declaring one's honesty. These qualities are best demonstrated through actions, consistency, and quiet assurance rather than words or self-promotion. When someone is truly confident, they do not need to convince others of their worth. When someone has integrity, they do not need to prove their honesty, they simply live by it. The moment a person feels the need to announce these traits, they introduce doubt, as if their confidence and integrity require recognition in order to be real. But true confidence and integrity stand on their own, regardless of whether they are acknowledged or praised. A person who possesses genuine confidence does not seek approval or validation from others. They are secure in who they are, in their abilities, and in their choices. They do not feel the need to boast about their achievements or constantly remind others of their strengths. Their presence alone conveys their confidence. They walk into a room without needing to dominate it. They speak with certainty, but do not seek to overshadow others. Their confidence is not loud, flashy, or exaggerated. It is steady and unshakable. It does not fluctuate with praise or criticism because it is not dependent on external recognition. Those who are truly confident do not waste energy trying to prove themselves to others. They focus instead on growth, self-improvement, and their own path. On the other hand, those who frequently announce their confidence often reveal insecurity. They feel the need to assert their worth through words because they do not fully believe in it themselves. If someone constantly says, "I am confident," or "I am successful," it raises the question, if they truly were, would they need to declare it so often? Real confidence does not need to be advertised because it speaks for itself. It is recognized in a person's actions, in their calmness under pressure, in the way they treat others, and in their ability to handle setbacks without breaking down. Those who possess quiet confidence do not see challenges as threats. They embrace them without fear, knowing they are capable. Similarly, integrity does not require public declaration. A person with true integrity does not go around announcing, "I am honest," or "I always do the right thing." They simply live by their principles, regardless of whether anyone is watching. Integrity is revealed through consistency, through the ability to make difficult choices even when no one is looking, and through the refusal to compromise values for personal gain. When a person's words align with their actions over time, people recognize their integrity without it ever needing to be said. Integrity does not need witnesses, and it does not seek validation. It is not performed for approval. It is practiced as a way of life. People who constantly talk about their integrity often raise suspicion. If someone repeatedly insists, "Trust me, I'm honest," it can create doubt rather than reassurance. Honesty is proven through actions, not claims. A person of integrity does not need to persuade others of their truthfulness because their track record speaks for itself. When others see that a person keeps their word, follows through on commitments, and stands by their values even when it is inconvenience, and trust develops naturally. Integrity, like confidence, is best understood through quiet demonstration rather than loud declaration. There is a strength in not feeling the need to prove oneself. When a person moves through life without seeking validation for their confidence or integrity, they gain a certain freedom. They are not controlled by the opinions of others. They do not adjust their behavior for approval. They do not need applause to feel secure. Their confidence allows them to stay grounded in both success and failure. Their integrity keeps them steady, even when making difficult choices. They remain the same person regardless of who is watching, because their values are internal, not performative. Confidence and integrity are deeply intertwined because both require a strong sense of self. A confident person trusts their abilities without arrogance. A person of integrity trusts their principles without the need for recognition. Both qualities rely on a quiet inner strength that does not demand validation. A person who is truly confident does not boast, and a person who truly has integrity does not seek constant affirmation of their morality. These traits are most powerful when they are lived rather than spoken. When someone enters a room with true confidence, they do not need to announce their presence. Their energy, their calmness, and their self-assurance make it clear. When someone consistently acts with integrity, they do not need to repeatedly remind people that they are trustworthy. Their actions build a reputation that speaks louder than any claim. The strongest people do not seek attention for their character. They embody it in a way that others naturally recognize. Confidence and integrity, when real, require no announcement. They are simply lived. Actions are stronger than words because they demonstrate truth, establish credibility, and leave a lasting impact in ways that speech alone cannot. Words are easy to say, but without corresponding actions they lose meaning. Promises without follow-through are empty, declarations without proof are unconvincing, and claims without demonstration are forgettable. In contrast, actions reveal true intentions, validate character, and communicate sincerity more effectively than anything that can be spoken. While words can inspire, deceive, or persuade, actions provide undeniable evidence of who a person truly is. People often say what they think others want to hear. Words can be carefully crafted to create a certain image, to manipulate emotions, or to avoid conflict. But actions are harder to fabricate. They require effort, consistency, and genuine intention. A person who claims to be honest, but repeatedly breaks trust, shows through their actions that their words are meaningless. A leader who speaks about fairness but acts with favoritism reveals their true nature regardless of their public statements. This is why actions have greater power. They strip away illusion and show reality. Trust is built on actions, not words. Anyone can say you can count on me, but reliability is only proven over time through consistent action. A friend who says they care but never shows up when needed does not inspire confidence. A business that advertises integrity but treats customers unfairly loses credibility. Trust is not established through promises, but through the repeated fulfillment of those promises. It is easy to make commitments in words, but only actions can prove dedication and reliability. Love, too, is best expressed through actions rather than words. Saying I love you carries little weight if it is not backed by care, respect, and effort. A person who truly loves someone will show it in their behavior through patience, sacrifice, and support. A parent's love is not only in the words they say to their child, but in the time, guidance, and protection they provide. A partner's love is seen not just in romantic expressions, but in the everyday acts of kindness, understanding, and loyalty. Words may create a momentary feeling, but actions create a lasting bond. Similarly, leadership is not about speeches or grand statements, it is about setting an example. A true leader does not just talk about values such as hard work, discipline, or fairness, they embody them. Employees are more likely to respect and follow a leader who works alongside them, rather than one who only gives commands. A person who takes responsibility for their actions, admits mistakes, and makes an effort to improve earns more admiration than someone who simply talks about accountability. Leadership is about action, and those who act with integrity inspire others far more than those who only speak of it. Actions also define personal character. A person can claim to be kind, generous, or courageous, but their actions reveal the truth. Someone who talks about kindness but treats others rudely contradicts their own words. A person who speaks of generosity but never extends a helping hand exposes their true priorities. A person who claims to be courageous but avoids every difficult situation reveals that their words are just for show. Character is not determined by what one says about themselves, but by how they behave when no one is watching. Actions reveal the depth of a person's principles in ways that words never can. In difficult situations, actions speak louder than explanations. When someone makes a mistake, apologies are important, but what they do next matters more. If a person continues the same behavior after saying they are sorry, their words mean nothing. True remorse is demonstrated through change, through effort to make things right, and through consistent improvement. In relationships, workplaces, and society, people respect those who take responsibility through action, rather than those who only speak about their intentions. Even in moments of silence, actions communicate more powerfully than words. A reassuring touch, a helping hand, or a simple act of generosity can express more than 1,000 words ever could. In times of grief, words may fail, but presence and support speak volumes. In times of success, those who celebrate others through genuine actions of encouragement leave a greater impact than those who only offer compliments. The most memorable and meaningful gestures in life are not always spoken, they are shown. The strength of actions is also evident in social change. Throughout history, great movements were not led by words alone, but by action. Speeches may have inspired change, but real transformation came from people who took risks, stood firm in their convictions, and acted despite opposition. Justice is not achieved by talking about fairness, but by fighting for it. Progress is not made by complaining about problems, but by taking steps to solve them. Those who take action are the ones who leave a legacy, while those who only speak often fade into irrelevance. Actions also create personal success. Dreams and ambitions are not fulfilled through talking about them, but through persistent effort. A person can say they want to be successful, but without work, discipline, and sacrifice, their words mean nothing. Athletes do not become champions by discussing their goals, they train relentlessly. Artists do not create masterpieces by merely talking about their vision, they practice their craft. Entrepreneurs do not build businesses by just expressing ideas, they take risks and execute plans. Action is the foundation of achievement, while words alone remain empty potential. Ultimately, actions hold the greatest power because they are real, tangible, and enduring. Words can be forgotten, misinterpreted, or ignored, but actions leave an undeniable imprint. They define character, establish trust, and determine outcomes. The strongest proof of anything, whether love, integrity, leadership, or commitment, is not in what is said, but in what is consistently done. Truth stands on its own because it does not require validation, justification, or persuasion to exist. Unlike lies, which need constant support and reinforcement to be maintained, truth remains firm regardless of belief or denial. It is independent of opinions, emotions, and external influence. Whether people acknowledge it or not, truth does not change. It does not need to be argued into existence, nor does it disappear if ignored. Its strength lies in its permanence and its ability to reveal itself over time. When something is true, it does not require excessive explanation or defense. A person who knows they are honest does not need to constantly proclaim their honesty, their actions will prove it. Someone who speaks the truth does not need to convince others with forceful arguments. Over time, the truth will make itself known. Those who feel the need to aggressively prove their point often do so out of insecurity, rather than confidence in the truth itself. Truth does not rely on loud voices, elaborate justifications, or repeated claims. It remains steady, waiting to be recognized, while falsehoods struggle to sustain themselves. Truth also stands on its own because it does not depend on majority belief. There have been many instances in history where the truth was denied, suppressed, or ridiculed, but it still endured. Reality does not change simply because people refuse to accept it. The earth was round even when most believed it to be flat. Scientific discoveries, social truths, and moral realities remain true even when they are inconvenient or unpopular. Falsehoods may gain temporary acceptance, but truth will always rise above them in the long run. No amount of denial can erase reality. The nature of truth is such that it does not need defense through deception or manipulation. Lies require constant maintenance. They must be covered up, supported by additional lies, and carefully controlled to avoid exposure. Truth, on the other hand, requires no effort for sustain. It exists naturally and reveals itself over time. A lie may seem to work in the short term, But eventually contradictions arise, and inconsistencies expose its weakness. The truth, being simple and consistent, does not face this struggle. Truth's self-sufficiency is evident in personal character as well. A person who lives truthfully does not need to seek approval or prove themselves to others. Their consistency, reliability, and honesty will make their integrity clear over time. When someone is truthful, they do not need to keep track of false stories or constantly adjust their narrative. They are at peace with themselves because they are not burdened by deception. People who rely on dishonesty, however, find themselves trapped in their own web of lies, always fearful of being exposed. In relationships, truth stands on its own without the need for exaggerated assurances. If trust exists, it is because actions and consistency have built it, not because of repeated claims of loyalty or honesty. When two people understand each other deeply, they do not need constant verbal validation. The truth of their bond is evident in how they treat each other. Lies and pretense may create temporary illusions, but they always collapse under scrutiny, while truth remains unshaken. Truth's resilience is also seen in its ability to withstand time. A temporary lie may seem more convenient or beneficial in the moment, but truth eventually emerges. The weight of reality cannot be suppressed indefinitely. History is filled with examples of truths that were hidden or denied for years, only to be revealed in the end. The truth does not vanish simply because it is ignored. It waits patiently until it is recognized. Those who try to bury the truth may succeed temporarily, but they cannot erase it completely. Another reason truth stands on its own is that it is self-evident in its impact. Lies and deception may create short-term comfort, but they often lead to greater consequences. Truth, even when difficult, provides clarity and resolution. When people face reality rather than avoid it, they are able to grow, learn, and make meaningful progress. A society built on truth is stronger than one built on falsehoods, because truth promotes stability, trust, and genuine understanding. Ultimately, truth does not need to fight for recognition. It exists beyond human perception and does not require belief to be real. It does not beg for validation, nor does it crumble under scrutiny. Truth is its own proof. It stands firm, waiting for those who are willing to see it. In the end, truth requires no defense, no embellishment, and no validation. It stands unwavering, whether acknowledged or ignored, whether accepted or denied. Time may conceal it for a while, but it cannot erase it. Lies will crumble, illusions will fade, and deception will unravel, but truth remains untouched, unshaken, and inevitable. Those who embrace it find strength, clarity, and peace, while those who resist it only delay the inevitable. No matter how the world changes, truth will always stand on its own.